But also pay attention. How do both of those guys train? Heavy, basic,
Yeah.
brutal workouts.
Hey everybody, welcome to It's Just Bodybuilding episode 103. Dusty, Scott, myself, lots of Instagram questions, and we're going to have a good time on It's Just Bodybuilding. So, like, share, subscribe.
Ring the bell.
Ring the bell, comment. Okay.
You nailed it, Ron. You nailed that.
Yeah.
Early.
Happy to be
We're
back.
only 30 minutes deep, and you already throw it in there. Nice. Oh, this has been
Yeah, so, we already got some, we started blabbering about pre-contest metabolisms before the commercial, hey?
You got my mind spinning on so many things just in that conversation. I was like off topic in my mind. I was like, I'll hold on to that one for a little bit.
Right.
So,
here's a question for you, because you know, on the topic of metabolisms taking off, what's the fastest you've ever seen anyone get in crazy shape, like where it blew your mind, like where you saw them in the gym and then 5 weeks later they were on stage and you were just like, what the fuck? Did you ever have that? Because there's a couple of times.
Jose at the 2015 Olympia, I think it was. And the reason is we went to the USA's that Jake competed at, and I think won. And Jose came, and he was small and fat. And I remember seeing him, and I was like, what the fuck? And I told Chris, I go, so usually Jose's fat, but he's small also. And he's like, yeah, it's fine, though. We have 7 weeks. And I'm like, you got to go up in size and down in 7 weeks. And then I saw him in his room at the Olympia, and I was like, what? What happened? I mean, he literally came out, and he was peeled out of his mind. And this was Wednesday, and he was like 210 or something. You know, the 212 was a cut. And I was just like, holy shit. I mean, he looked like he was 220 with 170 pounds of muscle. When I saw him in Vegas, I remember, just because, you know, Jose was like, I got to start after this weekend. Cheers.
Right.
And I'm like, wait, we're drinking.
Yeah.
I think that Jose and Jay are the two people that I know personally that reminded me that some of us are humans and some of us are not.
Right.
I'm human.
Right. What about you, Scott?
I'm trying to think. I can't think of anybody offhand that I know that has made a suit. I guess, you know what? I'm blanking right now, but I also have been through a lot just to get here, just to be here right now. So I
remember, and I can't remember the girl's name, which sucks, but I remember this girl came to me one year, and it was like 10 weeks out from like a regional show. And she was like, hey, I think I might hop in the show this year. Because she'd competed before. Like I'd helped her before at one point. And she didn't really sound like totally sure. She's like, yeah, I might hop in. And I looked at her and I was like, well, I mean, it's only 10 weeks. Like, you haven't really been training. You know, you don't have any delts. You know, your back's like not wide. Your quads are like, you don't have quads, delts, or lats, and you're doing figure. And it's 10 weeks out, and, you know, you don't really take any drugs. So, you know, there's that. Like, why don't you just start training again and just like go next year in the spring or something, you know?
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, you're probably right. I'll think about it. And I was like, you know, I just don't want to make any promises I can't keep and take it on and not be able to get in shape, you know? And I gave her like a real honest chat. And then it might have even been 8 weeks out. And then she walked on stage at the show, completely peeled, and trashed everybody and won the overall.
That's crazy.
And I went up to her after, I'm like, what'd you do? She's like, you wouldn't want to do it. I fucking starved myself and fucking did 2 hours of cardio a day. And I trained 6 days a week, 30 sets a day. And she just said, she's like, no coach is going to want to do this to me because it's going to be everything they're not supposed to do. And I don't want to bother anybody. And she's like, I was way behind. So I just thought maybe I can do it. And she just like literally just went like turned all the dials to 10 and just fucking hammered it. And I just laughed. I was like, oh my God.
That's crazy.
It's crazy transformation.
I gave advice that was too bad for a professional to give to me, so I took it myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just kind of like funny because she's like, yeah, it was kind of on me because I was behind. So, you know.
I love the mentality though. Like, how do you not look
great
at
attitude
like that and go, fuck yeah. Like, I just did what it took, is basically was her answer.
She's like, you know, because like if someone comes to you, they haven't even been in the gym. You're like, well, you're gonna have to like quit your job and train twice a day.
Right.
Are you willing to go homeless to get this done?
No, for like a regional show, right? It's like, nah, maybe just wait till next year. That was all I could tell you. You should probably wait till next year. It probably still was the better advice. Did I get cut off
for
a second?
You good?
No. You're fine. I think that I have too many things on my Wi-Fi, so I just turned a couple off.
Oh, you gotta close all your windows, buddy.
Well, I didn't want to lose that spot on Pornhub, so I was like, but I realized you can save them now. So we're fine.
There you go.
I was like, page 124. It took so long to find.
Exactly. It's a really long time searching for the exact video I was looking for, but I found it.
I remember the thumbnail. I'll know it when I see it.
Took some time, but I'm a focused individual. It's Labor Day, though. I have to take the rest of the day off. So,
yeah. Long weekend Monday. Okay, so what's going on with bodybuilding, Dusty? What's your update?
Oh man, I'm actually super stoked because next 1 week from now, because I'm actually leaving town, I'm starting back with Jordan because my body's functioning.
Nice.
Like I finally reached a point where I can do everything again. Because I was still avoiding like bars, dumbbells, like just trying to make sure everything was on point. And I didn't want to start with Jordan until I don't give a shit about my numbers, but I need to be able to do everything again.
Yeah.
So next week we start, and I'm just stoked because it's been a minute, and it's one of my Q&A questions, but everyone keeps asking like, oh, what's the cycle? And they really, I'll have to admit, I didn't understand either, but muscle memory is retarded. Like, I know for a fact that the majority of the people, when I say, oh, I've been taking 200 milligrams of Cypionate, are like, sure. You went from 230 to 285 on 200 milligrams of Cypionate. I'm like, yeah. And the diet hasn't been that much either. You know, but I'm liking it because this, if everything goes as planned, which, you know, as the way it should, then I should be able to shoot back up over 300 in no time with the effort and other things. So I'm going to kind of keep track of it all, so I can kind of share the thing, because it's something. I mean, Dante told me, and it was his idea, was, hey, just keep it minimal, keep the diet low. We talked about this, Ron. I mean, I don't typically drink a lot of shakes. I've been doing a couple of these a day just to keep the waist tighter. And even I like woke up and I'm stepping on the scales going, what the fuck? And then strength is, it's kind of weird. Like I do a behind the neck hammer strength. It's a really awkward machine for me to get into.
Yeah, I know the one. It's not not unilateral, right? It's like
it's all one piece.
Huh.
But to give you an idea, like last week, so I went for 3 plates for the first time last week aside, and I got 10 with an assist for like 2 reps. So I got 8. Well, this week I was like, so 7 days later, I'm like, I'll do it myself. Just film this for me because I want a better angle of the filming. She's like, okay. And I got 15. And I'm like, okay, things are starting to click. Like when you're going up almost 100% in a week, you know. So it was funny that happened, and I posted about it. And then Jordan texted me that day. He's like, "You ready?" And I'm like, "I think I am." So I'm excited. It'll be fun because we were in it for like a month.
You just got started.
So. Yeah, and then, you know, I decided to take an extended nap and got a little lazy for a month, and I'm back. So yeah, it's good. It's exciting.
That's because most of the muscle coming back is just from the nerves actually innervating the tissue. You know,
right.
Like people realize what innervation, just having a nerve attached to a muscle and having like, you know, kind of think about it as like there's current passing through it even when it's laying there at rest. You know,
right.
And that's what the paralytics did. It's not like you just laid, like if someone just laid in bed for 26 days, they wouldn't shrink nearly as much because their muscles are still innervated. But you were on paralytics.
Yeah.
So the innervation was like down to fucking, I don't know, does it go to 0?
Yeah, nothing is happening I mean, literally the only thing on is your brain.
Yeah.
Nothing else is functioning pretty much. I mean, organs, but on their own.
Yeah,
nothing.
your autonomic nervous system or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and then on top of that, and it's funny because I talked to the one of the surgeons after the fact, and he's like, well, we're also feeding you like 1,000 calories a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so you're starving, you're dehydrated, and like you said, it's not just not moving. You know, because I was really stunned with how much was gone, and then obviously, you know, my brain wasn't fully on anyhow. So having someone explain it that still had a fully functioning brain was nice. I was like, oh. He's like, no, your body was off. We turned it off.
Yeah.
Like,
I remember when I tore my quad. You know, that tendon, the quad tendon, was completely severed. So it was a 100% rupture, which means the nerves to that muscle, like,
they're not touching.
you know, your body shuts right down to guard, right? So I just remember, like, you know, at the 2-week point, the swelling was starting to really come down.
Right.
And I was like, holy fuck, is my leg ever small already? Like,
Yeah.
like my quad, like, it shrank to nothing real quick. You know, I still had like hamstring muscle, even though I couldn't
Right.
bend
Because
my
that's still
leg,
connected. Yeah.
you know, and I still limping around on my calf, but the quad just shriveled to nothing because the nerve was kind of turned off, right? So it was just like shut down. And then you see how fast things atrophy.
Yeah.
It's fucking freaky. You know, all that work, like 30 fucking years of lifting, and my muscle just goes. Whoo.
Do you feel,
it's wacky.
does that quad feel different now when you train it? Like, or does it feel like its old self?
Yeah, the leg feels really good. I get good contractions, really good pumps. I feel it loading, you know, I can feel the tension going through it, and I can really crank on it. In fact, I feel like that's my good knee, to be honest. That knee feels like a little better because it's got a big, thick, fresh white tendon on it.
The other ones,
You know?
yeah, been
The other one still has like a 30-year-old tendon. that's
jammed
got a lot
on
of
for 30 years.
yeah, but like the tendon that he put back together, the way he explained it, he's like, oh, that tendon will remodel itself. It's not the tendon it was. It's a new tendon now.
Huh.
Plus he put 60 feet. He's 60 feet of line in it to sew it together. So there's a lot of thread that was holding that together. You know what I mean? And he drilled extra holes in my kneecap to run the thread through. So it was like heavy duty reinforced. So we lost Dusty.
We did. I was going to tell him to stop playing with stuff on his desk too. Have you noticed he has this habit of fiddling?
That's funny.
There he is. We lost you.
Everybody disappeared, just me. Dude, all of you were
Just you.
frozen. I was like, shit, this has never happened before.
Dusty, don't play with stuff on your table. I got to tell you that.
Apparently, don't touch anything.
No, like you make
noisy.
sound because you'll like pick stuff up and everything. The audio listeners will be like, "Oh my god, somebody's picking something."
Sounds like you got kids playing right below your elbows. There's like kids banging around.
I am the child.
You are. Hey, listen, I'm the child in this household.
Exactly.
That's my line tonight. That's what I'm going to tell her to explain how I'm behaving. You know. Okay, let's do a few questions. I want to throw a few questions out, and then we'll, you know.
Then we'll
see how we
ramble.
go.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I've got a bunch that I
Yeah.
screenshot because I was thinking they were going to run out of time here.
Okay. Here's one. Let's get in. I like this stuff. What is your personal favorite intensifying technique?
Ooh.
Personal favorite.
I'm not going first, but I know mine. So, Scott, what is yours?
Oh man. Well, I feel like I can't say anything other than Widowmaker.
Oh,
And obviously, it's not a movement that you can use every workout or every, you can't use that all the time. But when I do, or when I've had the opportunity to teach somebody about what a Widowmaker is, like we go through a leg workout together and we're building up to that one set. It's almost like you can stop and say that everything that you've done this entire day, if not this entire week, has led up to this very moment.
Right.
And that what we're about to do right now is something so incredible you've never done it before. And then you've got the opportunity to do something that like nobody else in this gym may even comprehend. And then yeah, it's just, it's such, and so for anybody, I should say too, I think that most of our listeners would understand what a Widowmaker is. But Dusty, I feel like you, having been born of DC training, you would probably be the best person to explain it. In fact, I would like to hear you explain it.
Well, the most basic way that Dante ever explained it to me was, so you're done with, like you said, essentially everything. And say you're, I don't know, you're doing hack squats just to make your life easy. He would say, okay, a Widowmaker, we're shooting for 20 reps, but what I want you to do is pick a weight that you can only get 15 with, and then get to 20. Yeah. So what ends up happening is at 10, 12, you're dying. You might even be stopping at the top and breathing. Then you get, you squeak your way to 15, and now you literally have to will yourself through one rep at a time. I filmed a Widowmaker one time because I was going to put it on Instagram, and it was literally like, it was only, I think I got 22 reps, and I want to say the set was like 1 minute and 48 seconds long. Like it took and the first 12 were just piston. Then it was like, okay, I'm going to get 3. Okay, I only got 2. Okay, I'm going to get 2. And it was literally one at a time with breaths in between at the top, grinding through. I mean, the key to it is that, though. I think a lot of people, they think they're doing a Widowmaker, they get to 18 and they struggle out 2. I'm like, when you get to 15, it should literally feel impossible. Like, there's no fucking way I can do this, but I'm going to do it anyways.
Yeah,
and when you're done, I
think it's important to tell people it's like the last 5 are like singles, with even if it's 2 minutes between reps, you're standing there waiting. You just have to make it happen.
As long as you don't rack it, you're still going. As long as you don't rack that weight, you're still going. So, yeah, it's definitely fun. I love that you chose that, because it's funny, I wouldn't even think of that, but it is extremely accurate, because it's the end. I mean,
yeah.
I had somebody email me one time after they did their first, and they go, "Should I do 2 of those?" I go, "Then you didn't do it."
Right.
Yeah, you can't.
If you're asking me that, you didn't do it right, because you would know better.
Right.
Usually I have to will myself to take the weights off when I'm done. Like, no, that's solid for sure. What about you, Ron?
Well, I think it's also funny Scott picked that, because I wouldn't have thought of that as an intensifying technique. I would have thought of that as like a training protocol or something. It just wouldn't occur to me. But yeah, it's like one of the hardest things you could possibly insert to anybody's leg day. It's the hardest, possibly the hardest thing. Like, it's up there with like, crazy rest pauses and stuff like that. It's like the worst of the worst.
I think rest pause would be my other one personally.
Yeah. I think my favorite intensifying technique is just a good old forced reps. And that's probably the one I've used the most. That's been a staple of how I trained for like my whole life. It was, you need a little bit of help getting 1 or 2 more reps, and that's a pretty deep place to go to failure on a very frequent basis. And some sets you might go 4 or 5 forced reps deep if you're really trying to dig a hole that day or something crazy. But for the most part, the straight set with 1 to 2 good hard forced reps, and then also the second forced rep, you always finish with a negative, like a super slow negative. And then even a little bit of added resistance on the negative in some exercises where it's safe. What I call a force negative. So, you don't yank on a preacher curl or anything like that, but you can like gently add some force down on, like, say, like a leg curl or, a chest press or certain things you kind of lean into a little bit and give the person a little more resistance on that last negative. And but that'd be what I would say is my favorite. And that's because it's like the good old reliable, Yeah. It's like the Glock of intensifiers.
On the note with this, I'm glad you guys brought this up. I would like you guys both to kind of give me feedback here. So I had a client, and he wants it bad, and he's very, 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 very green. Like the first time he sent me an email, and he's like, "What am I going to do? I've maxed out the lying leg curl." And I'm like, "Well, you're going to send me a video of this." And I said, "Because I'm going to guarantee your ass is going through the roof. Your hips are all over. You know what I mean? And of course, he sent the video, and it was barely a lying leg curl. But we corrected it, moved forward, and he's just so amped. So the other day, he goes, "Okay, so at the end of every set today, because I have him doing rest pause. He goes, I did the rest pause, and then I did a drop set. So he finished his rest pause, and then he starts doing a drop. He goes, then when I finished my training partner brought it up, and I did a static hold. I'm like, oh fuck, and I'm like, you did that for 5 movements? He's like, yeah, I'm really smoked, and I'm like,
I bet.
No shit. So the question, and I think it's a good thing for a lot of people, why is that not good?
Well, I think that the very complicated answer is it depends. If so, doing it once, doing something like that once, kind of reminds me of like the magazine days where there'd be an article like "Shock your back,"
Right.
you know, and there'd be something like, you know, at advanced training for back prioritization, and there'd be 3 back workouts a week, you know, and they're all 25 sets, and then the rest of your body's like a maintenance plan written into the Tuesday and the Thursday, you know, and there'd be all kinds of stuff. And you know, now looking back as like, you know, someone who understands how the magazines worked, you realize that those are routines that no one even did.
Right.
They weren't even actual routines. They were just something someone wrote on paper. Like there's not a single person did it before it was printed. It was just written because it looked interesting. And so, you know, and things like that just aren't sustainable long term. Like something's going to break down. You're either going to get just exhausted, you know, or you're going to go in like I know this firsthand from, you know, my cruise days now, my TRT plus days. There'll be days where I'll say to my partner, like, I'm not doing any forced reps on this. And the reason I'm saying that is because I may have noticed my strength is actually down a little. Like maybe first exercise, I was like, fuck, that was a little heavy today. And I know that on TR plus and what I do with activity and the amount of food I'm eating, if I do forced reps on every single fucking thing today, I'm going to be weaker again next week. And I've found a rhythm where I sort of, I don't want to call it instinctual because I'm not, you know, a fucking wizard, but I noticed that I found this thing where if I cut back on the forced reps, you know, when I noticed that little drop, I come back the next week and I have a stronger, like even Braden will say like, oh, you were strong today on dumbbells. And I'm like, yeah, I fucking wasn't I? And I fucking know why, because I didn't do any forced reps for the last 2 exercises last chest day. And because I felt a little weak, and now here I am having a good chest workout. So let's fucking put 2 and 2 together and make sure we make note of this, you know, because if I was training by myself on my own schedule, I may be handling it different, but because I'm training with someone who's on a very regimented show prep schedule, I need to be able to keep up. Like if I fall a day behind, we're no longer training together. He's not moving his workout. Right. So I have to find a way to make sure that I, you know, what I always say about surfing the curve, you know, I got to surf that curve, like stay up on that wave, you know? And I just noticed that, you know, on, you know, TRT plus, the dynamics of managing it are just a little bit different because recovery is, you know, recovery is what it's all about. Like recovery's what Dorian fucking pioneered. And it's why I followed and listened to him for so many years and crafted my training strategy after what he talked about and stuff. It was all based around recovery, because when you train really, really, really hard, you have to manage recovery, you know? And I remember watching the Blood and Guts video and seeing like, you know, certain exercises where I thought he could have even gone another rep or 2, you know, like, I don't know if you remember like the stiff leg deadlifts, it seems like his form is absolutely perfect, but he still ends a set. And if you listen to him talk about the video after, he's like, oh, well, yeah, you know, that week that's what I planned. You know, I was all like, it's all based on recovery. Like, how strong have I been? How powerful have I felt from week to week, grabbing that barbell for that set of stiff legs, you know, just, and it makes me, you know, all the, you know, when you're in the moment and you're competing and you're training for a show, it's, you look back and you think, man, that's really like a skill for him at that level to be able to manage all that himself, like without anyone helping him. Because, you know, like Dorian famously didn't really have anyone coach him.
Yeah.
It was just all him figuring it out, you know? And a lot of other guys are like, gotta, you know, and of course he had the reputation of being like the most hardcore guy, but here he is like, oh no, you know, dial back the odd time, no forced reps, you know? So people forget that aspect of it too. He was very obsessed with recovery.
It's an impossible, like that skill at that. I mean, you got to remember, he didn't compete for very long. I think that's the thing people also don't, like young guys don't realize, is Dorian didn't compete for many years, truly. He just won from the jump and then left.
Yeah.
So it's like to be that in tune.
He was a
and
pro
that
for 10
mature,
years.
Yeah, was just silly. You know, because here I am, you know, done and still catching like, oh, I guess I should back off now. Wish I'd have known that 10 years ago.
Actually, Dorian was only a pro for like 8 years. That's crazy, eh?
Yeah.
You're
I
a
think
pro
he
in
only
89.
competed for like 11 years. I mean, it was
Yeah.
So
in and out.
why can't you do that for every exercise? Why can't you do the rest pause followed by the drop set followed by the static hold? You can't do it because I think that, you know what, and we talked about this I think on the previous episode, was recovery. I didn't understand how important it was in the past, you know, and I think that's what you're talking about, Ron, is still figuring that out today.
Also, we have to remember, you know, there's physical recovery and mental recovery. You know, whenever someone's telling me like, I just don't feel like training lately.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, have you thought of just taking a week off?
Yeah.
Right.
You know, sometimes,
Or a day.
yeah, or a day, or just take a couple extra days off and just rest up. Because sometimes you take 2 days off, feel like a fat fuck or a lazy piece of shit, or you think your calves are shrinking, and you're fucking, I got to get back in the fucking gym. And then you're excited to train. So that's like important. And then also, you can't just like, even if you're mentally fine and your motivation is through the roof, if you train like that all the time, you will get hurt or something will happen. Like, you know what I mean?
You can't
So then
progress either.
Yeah, you can't progress. And that's another thing too, that, you know, there's a few questions actually about that, but you can't progress if you're hurt, you know, like looking back on everything, there was stuff I did that caused me to get hurt, you know, mostly wear and tear stuff. Right. You know, I didn't do very many things that like acutely injured me that were stupid. You know, like I didn't try to bench something crazy and tear my pec. Right. But like wear and tear where you're like, this machine kind of hurts my shoulder, but man, do I feel it in my chest. So I'm going to keep doing it for like the next 6 weeks straight. And then my shoulder's going to be fucking hurting. I'm going to go, oh damn, I should probably stop doing that machine. Like I did a bunch of that stuff. Right. And I wish I wouldn't have done that stuff, but you know, what do you do?
I think the biggest factor that I wanted for him to grab, and we obviously, he and I went over it, but anytime I have those little clicks with clients, I realize there's probably a lot of people doing it. What I told him was, you can't cheat how long this is going to take. So you're thinking the faster, the more brutalized you are in every single workout, maybe this 10-year goal is a 5-year goal. And chances are this 10-year goal will become a 15-year goal if you do that. Like, more is not more, more is just more. And it's weird how even at the highest level, I would catch myself falling into that when I reached a point where as I got better, and you're like, well, I need to be even better now. And next thing you know, you're training 6 days a week. And it's like, what am I doing? This isn't even how I got here. Like, you know what I mean? It's a weird thing. So I try to remind guys, because I know that I've been guilty of that myself deep into my career, where next thing you know, you're training, you know, I'm going to split legs, but I'm still going to leave everything else as its own as well. Well, there's only so many days. And if you're training like this, what's going to happen? I remind guys, literally the best gains of my career. Now, granted, it's timing also, but I was training 3 days a week. I was just annihilating myself and then taking a day off, annihilating myself, taking a day off, annihilating myself, taking 2 days off.
I was 4 days a week.
Yeah.
I trained Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. That was my split.
That says a lot
for ages.
for both of you
And
guys.
I got all the way to like 315 on that split. And then I started thinking, fuck, I should probably add an arm day because my arms need to come up. But I was already over 300 pounds and like top 2 at nationals a couple times before I even started training 5 days a week. I was 4 days a week, you know, total Dorian split.
I got a question for both of you guys then. How did you get to that point 4 days a week, 3 days a week? Because some of the people who are listening to us are 6 days a week, and they're only not training 7 because they know that we would yell at them if they were training 7 days a week. How do you get to 3? You know, how do you get to that?
Well, so I think I know why. Well, one of the factors. I was obsessed with getting stronger.
Yeah.
A lot of people aren't. They're exercising. They're in their like their training is actually exercise. And you know what I mean? It's not as goal driven. They're like, I'm gonna do some lunges today. I'll grab the 30s.
Yeah.
I'm gonna squat today. I'll see how 225 feels. Oh, it feels good. You know, we had a good squat session, went pretty hard. Those people can train a lot more frequently, but the gains aren't going to be, you know, obviously they're not going to be the same, you know, genetics aside. Right. But my mentality was like, okay, I incline Smith 2 plates and a 25 for 6. So I have to do every fucking thing I possibly can to get 7 reps next chest workout. And when I train more frequently, I don't get stronger. So I'm going to stop doing that because my goal is to get stronger on every single movement. And then you find, like, I went down to 3 days a week at one point when I was young because I wanted to do the Mike Menser, like the full heavy duty. Right. So I remember I went down to 3 days a week, and I remember my strength gains, like I wasn't getting stronger. And then I went to the Dorian split, back to the Dorian split, and I started getting stronger again. And I was like, okay, this is just like by a little bit of trial and error with the way I trained, the way I executed it, I sort of found like a little zone where my strength would go up. And I'm like, oh, this is it. I'll just hover here and surf the curve and just do this for 10 years.
Right.
So I just did that. And I remember, like, I tried to train 6 days a week a few times again because I'd like switch it up. And I noticed, like, I would always get sick. Like a month in, I would get like a cold or I'd get run down. And I remember just thinking like, oh, it's not for me. Fuck that. And I just stopped doing it.
Well, I think a lot of people too. I mean, and Ron, I think you've shared the story on here, but you train different than most. So if someone writes down 20 sets for you, that's 20 sets to absolute failure and possibly past. So you doing that 6 days a week is just not going to work. I think that's the biggest take home. And like you said, genetics aside is one thing for sure. But when you're training like that, you just can't. Your CNS alone is getting annihilated every day. And Scott, my answer is way more simple. It's because I nagged Dante into training me, and I promised him I would not do anything additional.
Easy enough.
That was the deal. I was poor, and I gave him $800 and told him he could keep it if I fucked off. So that was the magic.
True Nutrition has supported our programming now for a number of years, and I'm super grateful for it because they believe in us and I believe in them. I'm sure you guys have heard of Dante Trudell. We talk about him on the shows. He had a vision of offering high-quality, third-party tested supplements at a fair price. They have a ton of different protein powders, just about every type you could think of, literally thousands of flavor combinations. Hit me up if you're interested in suggestions. They offer health supplements. I use their collagen and their fish oil. And of course, they offer performance supplements. You can get bulk EAA powder or beta-alanine. You can also get finished products like the Mountain Dog Perry MD intra-workout. If you shop with True Nutrition and you use our code THINK, you'll get some additional savings, you'll get high-quality supplements, and you will support our programming. You can also help to support the shows through Patreon. I appreciate everybody who's made a contribution. You guys are helping to keep me pumping these podcasts out. I have links to everything in the description. Check them out. Let me know what you think, and let's get back to the program.
Here's one for you guys. I'm getting a bunch of cramps. I'm 6 weeks out from my show. My feet keep cramping. My hands keep cramping. I keep getting weird cramps. What's going on?
Increased magnesium.
What would you do, Scott?
I would think minerals, number one. You know, Other thing being fluids, I guess in general, you know, how much are they getting? And then two, you know what? It's hot out now, so I always, if I have a client that's getting cramps, the first thing I always ask them is, remind me, where do you live? Like, what part of the country are you in? You know, and then they're like, oh yeah, I'm a roofer and I live in Texas. It's like, and how much are you drinking? You know, and usually those guys are drinking more water, but you do have people that might not realize that maybe their fluid needs go up. And especially as you're getting leaner, you're not holding fluid like you used to.
Yeah, with the carbs lower, water goes right through you.
Exactly. So that, and then minerals for sure, or excuse me, electrolytes. I've been using, I never believed in getting like an electrolyte drink. I always thought to myself, like, man, just throw some pink, you know, sea salt on that. Yeah. It's cheap. That's all you need. But Victoria got me into a brand called Ultima, and it's a really good balance of electrolytes. I got my mom on it, actually. She was, you know what? She's not bodybuilding. You know, she's just like, I'm getting really weak and I don't know why. And she had to go to the hospital at one point, and they were like, I think it was her potassium was really low. So she started drinking this a couple times a day, and that fixed it. And I found the same thing, you know, with athletes. They start just putting this in your diet a couple times a day. Not to mention, I wish I had known more about electrolytes years ago, because I'd do like my physical blue collar job for 8-10 hours, and then I would go to the gym and in the middle of summer sweating, and then I'd feel fatigued. And that sense of fatigue that I would have from working all day, it wasn't because I was tired. It was because my electrolytes were down, you know, and getting that back up makes a huge difference. The other thing would be taurine, you know, especially like if they're on Clen or something, you know.
Oh, you think taurine, yeah. I guess if they're using EAAs and they're drinking whey protein isolate, and they're, you know, I don't know, the argument is if they're having, let's say, 300 grams of protein a day plus EAAs and stuff, how much taurine do you think they would need?
Well, that's I think the big thing though is you factor in also, at the end of the day, this is what I love about Jordan Peters, is his answers are always the same, which is, well, I don't know, what works for you. Because that is key. Like, you know, beyond just those kind of factors, everyone's body is different. Like, I'm starving when I prep, so I drink like 3 gallons of water a day. It's just habit. But I also take two times the servings of full spectrum minerals every day, and then the moment I get a hint of muscles altering, the magnesium and calcium both shoot up, and I just run them all the way to the show, and then that's gone.
I remember when I worked with Scott Abel back in the day, he would always say you need a gram of sodium for every liter of water that passes through your body as an athlete.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's like, athletes obviously working and sweating and muscle contractions and all that stuff, and you're managing sodium, potassium properly, healthy.
Right.
A gram per liter. So, you know, if you're drinking 2 gallons, that means you need 8 grams of sodium, which is like 8,000 milligrams, which, you know, means you can definitely grind some sea salt on all your meals for sure. You know,
soy sauce for the win, baby.
Soy sauce for the win. Yeah. Okay, good. So what, again, Scott, well, how much taurine would you tell someone to take if maybe they are on Clen and that's what they want to try, like 5 grams a day?
You know what? I'd start with one or two and just say, hey, what time do are you're experiencing cramps in the afternoon? Try, 1 gram, 2 grams before the time you would normally start cramping. See if that helps. And, try to keep it a little bit on the lower side. I don't know what there's kind of an upper limit Victoria was telling me about that I wasn't aware of. But I've done like 5, and I think that she would cringe if she heard me say that. In fact, she has.
Okay.
We're not going to tell her about this episode just because you said that.
You got a question, Dusty?
I have many questions, but actually I think this is a pretty solid one. Why do bodybuilders put oil on their food instead of using it to cook their meat if they're going to eat it either way?
Scott, you want to take this one?
Oh, man. Well, you guys tell me, is it because if you were to put it in a pan, I'm going to guess you're probably not actually going to consume like all 15 grams, right?
And depending on what type of oil it is, it has a smoke point. And
good point.
You know, for example, if you heat olive oil to the point where it starts to smoke and it has a low smoke point, so it smokes easily, then you're completely ruining any of the, you know, because olive oil is very cardiovascular friendly. You know, it's a kind of a good healthy fat for the heart healthy fat, you know, and it definitely fucks it up, and it's not the same, you know. Same with like flaxseed oil or something. Like if you heat flaxseed oil, it destroys it, so you can't cook with it. Whereas, isn't it macadamia nut oil has a pretty high smoke point? So doesn't Palumbo cook with it?
Yes, yeah. I was gonna say that too. He's made that, like, anybody who's been bodybuilding since 2009 has bought a bottle of Species Mac nut oil.
Yeah, or just a fucking $40 bottle at the health food store just to try it out and be like, holy fuck, this stuff's expensive. Isn't it the arachidonic acid? Isn't that what he says is in it? Or does he just say it's a really good fat?
I think it's just a good fat. The arachidonic acid was a whole other thing.
That was a different
That was the McDonald's thing.
Yeah.
That was the reason why McDonald's makes guys huge. I remember that. No, yeah, it's a smoke point, I think. That's why coconut oil is popular, because it has a really high smoke point. You can like, you know, cook with it and, you know, stuff like that. So I do know that I'm avoiding like all seed oils now, you know. More and more like canola oil, stuff like that. Like I don't use canola oil to spray the pan anymore. I stopped doing that. I was listening to Stan Efferding talking about seed oils, and I was like, fuck, I've always heard people talking about this, but I kind of ignored it. And so I started, like, you know, cut the canola oil spray out, and I use, like, you know, put a little bit of coconut oil and wipe the pan with it instead. So I don't know. You know,
what did he say about it?
Terrible. Heating them is just terrible. Well,
okay.
He says they're rancid and they're not friendly to our cells. Yeah. Not even a good fat for us to eat. We're not really supposed to be eating them. They don't actually serve us. And then when you heat them, I think it has to do with when you try to cook them, like they're brutal afterwards, you know? And then all hydrogenated fats, they say, you know, are really not good for us. So anything deep fried, you know, when you boil fat and you change it, I'd like to refresh my memory on all that stuff. You've probably done a bunch of podcasts on that, haven't you?
You know what? It's a topic. I mean, we've randomly talked about it, but I don't think we ever made it like a full topic.
Yeah. I think hydrogenated fats are like altered for some reason. That's why they're so fucking terrible for us.
You know what I was just thinking of? You guys in Canada don't have because I use like a spray coconut oil, but if I recall going to the grocery store, you guys you're not as big on the spray oils, are you, in general?
So that spray coconut oil is sometimes on the shelf. I'll grab it once in a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what we used to.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's everywhere here, so it's not as like every grocery store has it. So
yeah,
you know, costs a little more, but so does everything I like. So what's new?
I feel like the spray helps my food to not stick as much.
Everything I like is expensive.
About that.
Yeah.
I even spray the spatula because I don't like when some of my egg whites are stuck.
Oh my god, I do that too.
I'm like, I do that too. Get off of there.
Yeah, I give it I give the edge. I give the edge a little, just a little quick shot.
I get shit on that every time somebody sees one of my YouTubers. Like, why you use so much of that shit? I'm like,
oh, so easy.
What are you gonna chew off the edge of your damn thing? Like, what are you doing? I gotta clean this shit too, you know. Oh man, I have a good question that I'm going to. Oh, fuck it, I'm just going to say it because I know what it is. So the question was, a guy said, is it okay, he's trying to grow. He says, is it okay if I just don't worry about carbs at all because I don't like the amount that I have to eat and just eat fat for the calories? And it's funny because my initial response, of course, was, sure, go ahead. I mean, there's no such thing as a essential carb. But I think one thing that people don't realize is fats become fat easier than carbs, even though the calories are there. So calorie per calorie, although, you know, everyone wants to do that argument of a calorie is a calorie, it is actually easier to gain body fat if you use just fats. There are, I mean, it's funny because it's so simple if you break it down just from a basic point that fat is already fat, but a lot of people really have this confusion that carbs convert to fat easily, and they don't, unless you're at extreme excess.
Yeah, Lane Norton just put up a post the other day. It was, if you eat high carbs, low fat, you burn way more carbs all the time. You burn less fat, but you don't store carbs as fat very easily.
Right.
But if you eat high fat, low carb, you burn a lot more fat, but you also store fat a lot more easily.
Yep.
So he was like, it's all about energy balance. Because, you know, with Lane, everything comes down to like the calories. He's like, at the end of the day, it's calories, you know, technically. But so yeah, if they're in a surplus, then technically they should get fatter easier.
Yes. And that's kind of what my answer was. So I was curious what you guys thought, because that's my knee jerk too, is you're at an excess already because you're trying to gain, and then you're trying to use all of it from fat, or, you know, a large amount. Then in my brain, unless you're genetically lean, odds are higher that you're going to put on more body fat than you should. And then, of course, for my brain, then all of a sudden, now we can get into the estrogen issue when you're too fat.
Right.
What do you mean the estrogen issue?
Well,
the
estrogen,
fatter you are,
the fatter you are, the higher the estrogen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just easy.
That's what I assumed.
Of course, yeah, and then you don't want to be. That's the other thing, and actually, I saw Ron touch on this the other day. It's funny how when people start making mistakes, it's like a domino, because they're like, well, I'll just take more AIs. And I'm like, well, cool. Now watch your cholesterol.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so it becomes like, now instead of just going to the problem, you're having a domino effect of problems that come from one thing. If you just eliminated that, you'd be in a better spot, because guys are like, oh, well, I take a ton of AIs. I'm like, what's your cholesterol? Like, oh, well, I have to take a cholesterol drug. I'm like, holy shit. Like,
yeah, then they're on a statin. Just to correct it. Yeah, it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, we could just go to the very beginning and fix all of this. You know that, right? With one thing.
I talked to Dave Kalick about what they do with Dorian, and he said that Dorian, and I bring this up because they don't use a ton of carbs. I guess that when Dorian's carbs get too high, then he starts getting insulin sensitivity issues, and he starts just like putting on more fat. So I can't remember what he said they brought the carb. Like, it wasn't low. Like, he's still eating like, you know, 400. I can't even remember what the number was, but it was over 400 carbs in his off season. But he said they would lean into more healthy fats to build the calories up. Because, so I guess I'm throwing that out there. So depending on the person, maybe somebody doesn't have as good of a response to insulin, then maybe higher fats might be able to play a role in their diet.
Yeah, if you have pancreas problems.
I'm working with a guy that we really jammed the carbs last year, and we ended up putting on more body fat than I would have liked. Like, he gained a good amount of muscle, but then when we went to dieting, it was like hard to diet him down too. So I'm kind of experimenting with him using some more fats than we did last time, trying to keep that insulin sensitivity stronger, and maybe not have to rely as heavy on carbs, you know, for that situation.
Right. Well, what was his glucose number in the morning when he started his prep? 100?
I can't remember, but you could just see too, like, his response wasn't as good as it has been in the past. So we're going to track things a little closer, but we're going to rely on a little. We're going to see what happens. Basically, we brought carbs back up, but now we started adding some fats to it as well. Instead of just like in the past, I think maybe it was my mistake as a coach. Like, we really pushed the carbs hard, and now I'm thinking, maybe it was too much, you know. So, but then how do we get the calories up without those carbs? And that's where I'm thinking the fats are possibly going to come in.
There's also no evidence that he wouldn't have gotten equally as fat.
Sure.
Used more fat. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So it's like our brains do a little bit more of the overthinking than we really can afford to sometimes. It's like, you have no proof it would have gone any better.
Yeah.
But I think as a coach, you want to find the answer, because especially if you feel like, oh, well, he got a little too fat on my watch.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I must have done something wrong, when in reality, some people, that's just how it rolls, you know?
Yeah. He also put on a ton of muscle under your watch too.
True.
Yeah. Yeah, I always look at that at the end of the day. Remember, you guys remember this is, I wish that there was like, more guys need to go back and read the 10,000 page post that Dante used to put up about how if your goal is to get as big as possible, as fast as possible, then get fucking big.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which meant, yeah, you're going to get heavy too. And of course, just like anything on the internet that got taken too far, and guys were getting sloppy as shit and then saying, well, Dante told me. He's like, which was always comical because, you know, when I first hired him, you know what the first thing he did? Put me on a diet. I was too fat. Very first thing.
Yeah. When you're too fat for Dante.
Yeah, he literally was like, okay, well, we got to lean down. I'm like, well, you're the fat guy. I thought I was
but not
bodybuilding.
fat.
Yeah, not gross fat, you sick bastard.
It's like bodybuilder fat, where we're actually calling ourselves fat just to make general public people hate us.
And you got veins in your forearms.
I'm
abs
so
are in.
fat right now.
Yeah.
Sorry for the fat picture. Had to post.
You can only see all 6 of my abs, all of them.
Like when like a really hot girl posts a picture and she's like, feeling so squishy lately, but I'm trying to work on myself, you know? And then you're like, yeah. 10,000 likes.
Yeah, code for compliment me.
Yeah. Okay, is it my turn?
Yes. Well, there's no turns at this point.
Okay.
As long as you have a question, you can ask it.
Yeah. Okay. If you could, so this is kind of funny. I don't know. We'll see where this one goes. It has potential. It has potential to be interesting.
Scott wants a bigger dick. Oh wait, sorry, that was last week. If you could, wait.
If it was name 3 bodybuilders from the old days that you would sit and have dinner with. Pick
How
their
old is
brain.
old days?
Say 70s, 80s. Let's say old school, the golden age. You know
Metzer for sure.
Ooh, yeah.
In a heartbeat.
Mensa?
Lila Brada. Yep, Lila Brada.
Okay.
And Lee Haney.
Fair enough.
Can you not so you could not have Arnold in that conversation?
Yeah, because I'd punch him in the face.
Dustin's not an Arnold fan.
What about like a month ago? Would Arnold have been in the conversation?
This is 70s Arnold.
Well, let's put it.
Yeah,
in
70s Arnold.
The 70s Arnold. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I you know what's funny is the things that I loved about him was I love arrogance when it's just swagger. Because in my opinion, when you're right, it's not arrogant. It's just a fact. Like, you're just better than everyone else. I'm like, well, you are, so you can say that. No, but the reason I chose them, truthfully, was because Mets, you know, obviously Mike is obvious because I feel like my bodybuilding kind of came from him. Lila Brada, because I think that he was very methodical in his approach to bodybuilding. Like, to imagine being a guy like him who came into bodybuilding, a sport that was bigger. Already back then it was. And he said, nah, this is my lane and I'm rolling with it. It's not popular. Same with Mike, honestly. Like, not popular. No one else believes it's wrong, but we're staying in that lane. And then Lee Haney, it actually isn't because of the fact that he's Mr. Olympia. He was the first person that I read about and that crossed into, again, Mike, Dorian, Dante, which was activate, don't annihilate. Muscle.
Right.
That was his thing. Now, he was training more often than I do, but it was the same thing. Give it enough, walk away. You know what I mean? So I feel like each of those guys in their eras slowly worked up to what I was taught from Dorian and Dante.
Yeah.
You know, and I think
good
Arnold,
picks.
truthfully, was just more genetic freak. He could have worked out 10 hours a day and still whipped everybody's ass. So
So can we make, so this is dinner, right? This is like a dinner thing is what we're going for,
big
right?
dinner, so you got hours.
Okay. So I'm gonna come to the same party that Dusty set up. That way I get a chance to be Dusty's friends. I'm gonna bring Tom Platz with me.
Okay.
Oh, good choice.
I think Tom should join the party. I would have picked Menser as well. So there is that. And I'm trying to think of somebody we wouldn't have thought of. You know what I mean? Like, who's the guy we wouldn't have thought of? You know who that we don't have any pictures of or hardly any record of a lot of his career and you'd know him from Pumping Iron. Remember Ed Corney?
Oh, yeah.
You remember the epic Pumping Iron squat sets that he was doing with Arnold? And they just like, yeah. And they went till they're like laying on the ground. I'd love to hang out with Ed Corney. In fact, I'd like to like get in on one of those squat workouts with Ed Corney. That would be a jam. I don't know much about him, but he's got the mustache and the glasses, like the Menser glasses, man. I feel like, dude, we've got quite a party going on here.
Yeah.
I like that we went to a party of 8.
Yeah. You know, you picked a great bunch of guys. There's 2 people I'd bring from that old era. And just because they'd have a shit ton of stories. But I would bring Franco.
Okay.
Right.
Because he would have all the Arnold stories and he wouldn't edit them.
True.
He'd have them from an outsider point of view or from an inner circle point of view. And then also too, you know, I think it'd be awesome because we're having dinner and it's all about conversation, right? So I think I'd bring Rick Wayne. If you guys remember Rick Wayne, the bodybuilder from the 70s, he like wrote books.
You just blanked me.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
blanked me.
He wrote like a bodybuilding book back in the 70s because he was like, you know, a California staple legend. So he would have like infinite stories. Or Dave Draper. Because Dave Draper was not only a great bodybuilder back then and the Blonde Bomber and all that stuff, but he was also a big drinker. He was a real bad alcoholic. So he would have a bunch of party stories. He was the party man.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, he was the party man. Yeah.
I think, is it Rick Wayne?
I did not know that.
I didn't know who Rick Wayne was, but he's got, check out this hairdo on him. This dude is definitely a classic.
Oh, yeah.
He's got a physique.
Awesome.
I like that.
How do I not know that guy? Damn.
I don't know.
So that's what bodybuilding was supposed to be, that I missed by 1,000 miles. Son of a bitch.
Yeah, and he wrote a bunch of books and stuff, you know? He like hung out with Sergio and Arnold, and he like, yeah. There's even a YouTube video called The Forgotten Bodybuilder, Rick Wayne.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
See, that Scott and I forgot him, but of course Ron knows the most infinite weird facts. He also knows what kind of bubblegum Rick Wayne likes to chew.
So Dino sent me a copy of this book. It's called Muscle Wars.
Muscle Wars.
Huh.
And it's by Rick Wayne. Behind the scenes story of competitive bodybuilding. So anyways, very interesting book. I recommend it. But Dino sent me a copy of it because he's like, I had this old copy, you got to read it. And he like mailed it to me overseas. It was pretty awesome of him. You know?
That cost him $40 to send you that thing. Mm-hmm. Now I'm curious about that guy too, because it blows my mind. This is one thing I think about with bodybuilding and I mean everything, singing, like the amount of freaks that you've never heard of. That are just, I mean, like, look at that guy. You pull this picture up and I'm like, oh, he's better than I've ever been. That's great. Add it to the list of people who are much better than me, son of a bitch.
That's funny. In with nothing but like 20 megs of D-ball a day.
Yeah, exactly. And training for that. You know what's crazy is I had somebody ask me this the other day. So I answered a question on Q&A, and the guy said, "Well, why did we used to train? Why did you guys used to train for this many hours?" And I'm like, "Well, we've learned a lot since then."
Yeah.
I can't help but wonder what those guys would have looked like with the knowledge, not even the drugs, just the knowledge of now. Because some of those guys, I mean, were so good, you know, and so ahead of their time. Add in the knowledge and the mistakes they were making that they didn't know they were making.
Yeah, they were like great despite what they knew.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, even more dependent upon genetics back then.
Yeah.
It was like everyone was accidentally awesome.
Look at this shot.
Well, it's funny because,
Rick Wayne tricep shot. That's incredible.
Back in the day.
I can't even like fathom what I'm looking at. His pecs look like they're implants, and forget about his tricep. Like Lavroni.
Yeah, it's interesting, eh? It's interesting. I think he'd tell a bunch of stories that we wouldn't even think to, like, you know what I mean? He would tell stories and we'd be like, fuck,
Yeah.
That's crazy. I would never didn't even know that. You know, like all the little things.
You know who would
Whole
know about
missing
him?
era.
John Hanson.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah.
bet if I don't know what happened to Rick Wayne. If he's still around, John Hanson's probably done a podcast with him.
Right. Okay.
Of course.
I got one. Do you got one?
No, go ahead. You already prepared.
If you didn't bodybuild, what other extremely regimented lifestyle would appeal to you?
BMX.
Wow. I'm trying to like have a legitimate answer. Because I also am terrible at like everything.
Right.
There's a lot of things in my mind that are like, that's very regimented. I would suck at that.
You want the one you were good at.
Yeah. Well, kind of good at. I mean, you're using that term pretty loosely there. Good compared to what? You know what's crazy? Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna do a cop-out answer, but I actually think it's true. Is everything to be successful is extremely regimented, and people miss that. Like it's an obsession that it's funny, but being that it's Labor Day here, and I don't know what it is. I think I'm just old and an asshole, but I get so irritated by people who are constantly putting up quotes and inspirational bullshit, and I know them on a personal level, and they're bums. I'm like, at some point, you actually have to follow through, and for more than a week. Right. So to be extremely successful at anything is super, super regimented. I know because I've had a few extremely successful businessmen and real estate guys and whatever. They were like, oh, I could never do what you do for bodybuilding. I'm like, you do it every day. I've seen you. Mm-hmm. It's just a different thing. You know what I mean? Like you wake up and you do all the things you have to do. You have the reps also, which is why you're a land developer or whatever the hell it is, So, I mean, for me, it would definitely have fallen into business in some route, but the regimented part of the question is awesome because they don't realize that being successful at anything is regimented.
Yep. Yeah, and then there's also a flip side to that too.
Uh-oh.
Bodybuilders, in a lot of cases, I'm going to be a devil's advocate here.
Yes.
Bodybuilders, in a lot of cases, give themselves too much credit for being hardworking, because some of them make their own schedule completely. They don't actually have any forced regimentation as far as like any outside responsibilities at all. So they just set up the easiest possible situation for them to stick to long term, which is obviously a winning strategy. That's the smart move to do. So if a guy has like a full-time job and kids and a family, and he's talking about how regimented his day is to get his bodybuilding in, I'm like, yeah, because there's things in there don't have control of that you have to go around.
Yep.
But then if there's some guy that's like, tons of money coming in, sleeps, naps whenever he wants, cooks every meal one at a time.
Am I supposed to raise my hand?
Yeah, you were actually. But then he's like, yeah, the regimented, sticking to the regimen.
Yeah.
I'm like, sticking to the regimen, you make your own schedule from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed. You have absolutely no one depending on you that is on any kind of clock. You can just return emails whenever the fuck you want. What are you talking about?
You don't let the dog out, though.
Do you know what's painful about that? Is it's so accurate that, like, when I have something on my schedule, it irritates me. I'm like, I have to be there at 11?
Yeah.
Why did I make this 2 o'clock appointment?
Going
what was I fucking thinking?
I mean, all the way down to somebody's like, can I give you a call? I'm like, when? Like, I feel my stress levels come up. I take some PS immediately for the cortisol.
Oh, I know. Like, sometimes my phone rings and my first response is, fuck, did somebody die? Like, why is someone calling me?
Who would do such a thing?
Yeah. What about you, Scott? What do you think?
I don't know. I'm lucky that I have what I have. I'll say that, and I'll say that I'll say for, you know, and this is probably true for a lot of people, that if I didn't have the regimen that I have in my life, which now at this point, like bodybuilding is part of that, but it's business and podcasting and coaching. Yeah. If I didn't have my regimen, then my life would either, I'd have to be in the, like in the rat race, or it would possibly be chaos. And chaos is not a good place for Scott. So I don't know what else it would be. But instantly when I heard this question, I was like, would Ron be a professional freestyle flatlander?
Oh, no. I don't have enough talent for that. I know that much. I know enough to keep my hobbies a hobby.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the way I feel about bodybuilding for myself, at least. My own personal bodybuilding. It's a hobby.
Can you guys imagine, though, on the flip, like what you just said, Scott? Like, I didn't realize until I got into bodybuilding that I need structure, but structure that I create. But, like, I need it. Like, I go to the gym at the same time as if it's on a schedule, and I go by myself. But it has to be then. Yeah. And if it can't be then for some reason, it irritates the shit out of me. Like, you know, I mean, and I know this is genetically in my family, addiction is a thing. And that's why bodybuilding is easy for me. Like, it's a choice addiction. I'm like, I know what I'm doing. I'm choosing this one, but it definitely, like, when I see people that are like, oh, I don't know, I got stuff to do this weekend, like, you know, or somebody will say, oh, we're going to go do something. Like, when? What time? Like, I like things to be lined up and locked in, and I envy people who can wing it, because that's, like I said, if you call me, I'm like, don't fucking delete. Don't call me. It's not in the schedule.
Can we book this?
Yeah, email me, and I'll get to it in the next 24 hours. That is the rule.
Yeah, I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah, I don't know how it could be done any other way. Let's see here. Right. Boom, boom, boom.
Dusty's turn. Let's go.
It's always my turn when I'm not, when my parent. Okay, here we go. This is good because it's a base question that I think is solid. I want to do my first show next year, June or July. What should I be doing now? And I know there's a lot of open-ended, but there you go.
Yeah, big. Yeah, I would say you're just focused on getting stronger and bigger. Or if, I mean, they didn't say what they currently look like.
Right.
So if they don't look like they should be waiting to start a prep 16 weeks out, if they look like maybe they need to do a reality check diet or something, that might be a plan, you know, clean things up for a couple of months and get the abs all visible and, you know, set up a really easy, well, not easy, set up a possible to stick to. You know, maybe they go out for dinner on the weekend, have a high day midweek, but they're dieting the rest, and have like a nice 3-4 month sort of what I would call lean gainer off season, where they're, you know, not necessarily pushing the scale up, but really trying to make the physique better. You know, like you know what I mean? That sort of lean gainer stage where you're not bulking, but you're not dieting. You're just trying to manage a person and get them dialed, and so they look more respectable. And then you can talk about contest prep. So that might be the situation. But if not, getting bigger and stronger. And also, you should take the calendar off the wall. That's what we used to do, right? When we used to have a calendar on the wall, you take it down, you lay it down on the table, and you flip forward to the show date, you put a big X on it, and you count the weeks back. Like I remember the old days before the apps, you know, you count the weeks, and you count, and you put D data, and you start your prep 20 weeks out, and then you count 8 weeks before that, you come off your gear, and then you count back. Like, you know, a schedule, you got to plan the year, like have a plan. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to compete next year, and then all of a sudden 16 weeks out, you're like, oh, I should probably start my diet now. There's a lot to make sure is lined up, you know, make sure that you're not 16 weeks out and about to start your diet and your shoulder hurts. Like plan your year.
I love that you added that, because I forget, you know, what's crazy is I forget that I do that for clients, and I wouldn't even have thought to answer that. Like, because the first thing I say, like, when I compete, I'm like, how many weeks is that? They're like, well, it's next August. I'm like, how many weeks?
Yeah. Like, you put it in the app now, and it says like 43 weeks.
Yeah. And then, like you said, you do the exact same thing. All right, I'll prep for you is going to start 16 weeks out. We need to do this. I want to make sure your body's fresh. So we're probably going to do a cruise a few weeks before that. You know, I don't want you primed and back to full blast at 16. So 22 weeks out, we're gonna take a break.
Yeah.
See, how's this? This is the app on my phone. I just pulled one of my guys up.
I like that.
45 weeks
To the Branch Warren
That's
Classic.
awesome.
Yeah. So I know that Mike's got 45 weeks and 6 days to the Branch Warren Classic.
I don't use that app. I should get that. What
You're
is
gonna
that
state
called?
what that app is right now, because every single person watching this wants to know.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, it's just called Reminder, and you
Okay.
can just set the dates. And then I've got like, here's one of the pages where I've just got a bunch of people, right? Their show dates and how many weeks out they all are.
I like that.
So, you know, I got a 45 week, a 23 week, 15, 15, 12, 12, 12, 12, 4, and 1 week, 4 days. So it's like,
Right.
You know what? I'll add something too. If this person who's asking if they haven't competed before, I'm all for tentatively calling it that date, but at the same time, unless, you know, like, this isn't the Olympia. You know, this isn't like you have to do this show. So I'd say shoot for that. Do everything you can to shoot for it, but also be open-minded that if that show doesn't work out, I feel like I made a mistake early on. Well, it wasn't a mistake because I had to take a week off of work and it had to be scheduled well ahead of time. But if you weren't ready for that one, give yourself a little more time. You know, if say you want to do a show in 45 weeks and you're like, hey, I'm going to commit to this. I've never competed before. If you get to 8 weeks out and you're like, hey, I don't know, you know, but there's another show 4 weeks later, then don't be afraid to change the date too. Because at the end of the day, like, you're not failing by giving yourself another 4 weeks. And like 5 years down the road, all you'll care about is how well you did. You won't care like that you did it 4 weeks later, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
No, for sure. Yeah, I like that too. 'Cause I think there's the only school of thought with that to be cautious with, and I agree 100%, is also don't let the knowledge of that second show be why you slack off, because that's not what Scott's saying.
yeah.
He's saying you go all after it and you don't make it, or it doesn't look like it's going to be quite right, put it off. But you don't want to be using it as excuses to make mistakes. I shouldn't even say mistakes, decisions that are bad. I hate the word mistakes. I'm like, you ate a cheeseburger. It's not a mistake. It's a
It
choice.
fell in my mouth.
I got another one that actually I like, because obviously it's directed to me, but it applies to all of us. So it's a beautiful fit. And the simple question is, what's your favorite thing about JP?
Just that he, like, the world needs people like he's a misplaced, like, he's a, and I hope he would take this as a compliment, but he's like a mad scientist academic who just happens to be a hardcore bodybuilder. Do you know what I mean?
For sure.
And you know, the kind of the mad professor sort of thing, the guy that's like willing to do any experiment to just find the truth, you know, like that sort of
Right.
like reckless professor type of guy. Like, we need those dudes. They do cool stuff that everyone else goes, oh yeah, fuck, that proved that this or this showed us this, or this proved that we're wasting our time here. I don't know. I see JP as like, he's a really unique thinker.
Yeah.
And he doesn't care about any of the, like, he doesn't have any use for tradition or what people expect of him to, like, I don't know. He's
That's
so removed from caring about what anybody thinks of him or anything he does. And I think that people that are able to find that space where they literally do not care, they're willing to do anything just to pursue knowledge and experience, they bring something to the rest of us. That's, you know, we all have something to offer. That's what they have to offer, you know? I don't know. JP's a unique dude, man.
It's like that level of confidence he has with that not caring. To have that confidence to be like, you know, I think it gives hope. There's a sense of hope in that, kind of like before guys reached, Dave Palumbo had talked about how there weren't 300-pound bodybuilders. And then after there was a 300-pound bodybuilder, then there were many 300-pound bodybuilders. And I think that people look at a guy like Jordan, and then it gives them that hope that there doesn't necessarily have to be these limits.
Right.
Yeah. Also, he's an example of like every single thing he does has a purpose. You know what I mean? Like his training is 100%, every single thing has a purpose. You know what I mean? And in his, you know, his, how he researches stuff and everything he changes with his diet and stuff. And yeah, it's cool. I don't know. That's more than one word to describe JP though.
We didn't say one word, one thing.
One thought.
So you're good. You're good.
Yeah.
And they all go in line. I think the big thing, I mean, obviously, it's very difficult when someone says, what I'm going to say is something. I wouldn't say it's my favorite thing, but just to add is I appreciate doers. I get nothing out of quotes and sayings. I like winners, and quite simply, Jordan's a winner. He executes. No one has. Jordan doesn't need to say, "I train hard." Post a fucking video.
Yeah.
We will tell you that you're a fucking animal. You know, he doesn't need to say that he works hard in business. I fucking see it. So I think that that's my favorite thing is Jordan doesn't claim anything. He executes every single day, all the things he's doing. And then it's that saying, you know, if you're good, you tell the world. If you're great, the world tells you. And that's him.
Yeah.
You know,
anyone who has passion's infectious. So when you're passionately chasing something or passionately researching something, you hear stories about those guys that like, oh, where have you been? Oh, I went into the mountains for 3 years and wrote a book.
Yeah.
You know, I could see him doing that like at some point in his life.
Well, what was funny is I had a lot of people when I first initially hired Jordan, they were like, why would you hire Jordan? You guys do things the same. And I was like, yeah, no. Well, that's why. Like, because we have similar thought processes, but we don't do things the same. We see things the same, and I want to take what he's doing and execute, and I don't want to think. I like the idea of taking somebody where I already know we're on the same baseline. Like a lot of people I don't understand, they'll come to a coach and knowing who they are, like for example, Dante back in the day, he had a very blocked down, this is DC training. People come in, they go, what do you think if I added some volume to that? Why did you hire him? Like, you know his thing. It'd be like going to Jordan and be like, I think I should do pump sets instead. What? So, but I do. I really appreciate the fact that they, and I say they because both him and Corinne, they're just executors. And I love, because, I like when people show me what they're doing instead of telling me what they're going to do. There's something, and that's why my Instagram is probably so boring. It's like, yep, I'm rolling again. Yep, I'm doing this again. But that is bodybuilding, and that is life. That is reps, as Ron says. You do those things over and over and over and get better or stronger or more precise, depending on what we're talking about, you become more successful. So I think that his path, although very intricate, is also extremely simple. It's just the same execution day in and day out. He can tell you what he ate 37 days ago for lunch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, that's bodybuilding and success in all things. So that was a good question. I laughed. I was like, hey, it's a lot deeper than you probably realize. Good question. I hated it for Instagram. I'm like, I have 15 seconds to answer that.
That's
awesome.
That's so hard, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm always like, things I like. I like that he doesn't comb his hair.
Yeah, really, eh? Just, I don't know. He's kind of a caveman with the bare feet thing. I don't,
I dig that because I need to wear shoes. Big up.
Yes. Okay. Where is it? Would you rather use Pharma Growth or Pharma Test for the rest of your life?
I feel like that's easy. It's easy.
Are you allowed to like sell the kits if you don't want to use them? How many are we getting?
Yeah.
How many are we getting here? Like, is this an infinite supply? Because test is pretty easy to come by.
Right.
Yeah. If you could only have one and you couldn't buy it yourself or get it anywhere else, then I would say Pharma Test. Like if they were going to limit your, like you couldn't get anything else, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Then I would say
I think the
test.
question is which one? Well, if you're obviously, you can get good tests anywhere, so it'd be pharma growth, be simple. But I definitely advise you be like me and get both pharma because it's awesome.
There you go. There you go. There you go. Yes. Okay, you got one?
Oh, this is actually a fun one. Were you guys excited or nervous upon starting your first cycle?
I think I was just excited. Whoops. I was in that stage. I mean, I was pretty young, but I was in that stage like, you know, pretty much everyone I knew that had done steroids had nothing but good things to say about them.
It was unlike the weed. No one was lying to you.
You know, that all these guys at the gym, I'm like, so like, what's any problems? They're like, I don't know, I got bigger and stronger and I look better. I'm like, okay.
That sounds awful.
Plus back then, like
What about-
two guys didn't take huge doses. So there wasn't anybody walking around with like kidney problems or anything. Like, oh, I don't know, I took an ampicillin a week and 20 mgs of Winstrol a day. Do you have any side
Right.
effects? No, I felt great. You know, like,
Yeah.
of course you felt great. You know,
Yeah, I gained 25
So-
pounds in 10 weeks. I spent $200.
yeah, you felt great. The drugs were real. You didn't have to take many of them, you know, and of course you felt great.
I've talked to
I
a few
remember when I
people.
did mine, the problem wasn't I was very excited to do them, but when I tell you the amount of profuse sweating that went on and trying to figure out why anyone was putting things in their ass that was behind them, and I'm trying to do all this, and I mean, I just remember like looking in my mirror in the bathroom and just seeing me like drenched in sweat.
Oh my God.
Trying to get this done because I was so nervous, and apparently I've never been flexible because my ass was just impossible to get back there. And like I finally got it done, and I remember thinking like, is it gonna be like this every time? This is stressful.
Right.
Then later in life, I learned that there's many muscles that I could reach much easier. That helped. And
It probably helped that they got bigger too, so they were like easier to, you know what I mean? Your other sites were.
well, I remember it being like a big deal. You know, I mean, just the act of doing it was such a stressful thing.
Yeah.
And then you fast forward a couple years, and I remember like, it's funny, but when we were on the couch, Evian and I was doing my shots while watching TV, and she would always do them, so I just hand them to her, and she did it all. And then one day she just bam hits my shoulder. I'm like, ah, fuck. I look, she harpooned me with an 18 gauge. I was like, you didn't switch it. Like, I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, I remember when this used to be stressful, and now I'm like, shh, hurry up, I'm watching Oprah.
I think that was on purpose. I think that was on purpose.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
You deserved
Pretty
something
sure she went
that
through my
day.
phone that day.
Yeah. I was gonna
What
say
about you, Scott? Were you nervous or excited?
I've met people who were nervous, but I feel like myself and the vast majority of people, like we're all pumped, but we're pumped because we're sold on it. Like even like I remember the first time I took creatine, I was like, you know what? I've got this creatine and this is the secret, and this is gonna, you know, I'm gonna gain 20 pounds of muscle in the next 4 weeks. How could I not be excited? You know?
Oh yeah.
I
I
love that. I had
remember
a
those
guy
days,
actually
too.
come into the store one time. I had the retail stores, and the guy came in and he goes, dude, and you know, he kind of has to come in and tell me quiet. He goes, I got my first cycle. He goes, I started it yesterday. You would not believe how strong I was today. And I'm like, that's not how this works.
Yeah.
But keep lifting.
You
But
just
keep
power
going.
of
You
the
just
mind,
I think you're just
right? You know,
motivated
you
is all.
decided. Yep. It was classic. He goes, yeah, man, the numbers went up. But you know what's funny, Scott? You said that about creatine. Pressing's always been a weakness of mine, like always. And I started taking a product that actually iForce used to make that was literally, it had crystalline fructose in it. So you guys obviously know how that functions. And they sent me all this stuff. And I started taking everything. And I had a good, like a real strong chest workout one day. And I remember going, oh, that's a good day. And then the following week comes around and I had a better one. That's good too. By the third week, I'm like, oh shit, I forgot I'm taking this stuff and it's actually working.
Yeah, yeah.
My default is just a dumb lucky day. And after literally 3 weeks, I was like, this shit works. Son of a bitch. You know, I'm the opposite. I just assume nothing works and take it anyways and see what happens.
Well, I think if you assume nothing works and then you take it, at least you don't get a placebo effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Like,
kind of
I
like
just
the
take it. I was
old
like,
saying,
oh, this is free.
like if you take 100 micrograms of real LSD, you will have an experience. There will be no placebo related effects. Like, you know what I mean? You can deny it all you want. Oh no, I don't feel it. No. You know it. If it's real, you'll know it. You know. So here, I got one for you.
Shoot.
If you had to put money down on the current new crop of pros, who will win it? Guys, affording no new guys join the fray, who is our next Mr. Olympia after Ramy? Let's say Ramy wins this year, maybe wins again next year, blah, 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 whatever. Who's the next Sandow? Where's the next Sandow? If you had to pick, no new guys coming in, just what we got.
So anyone, it doesn't have to be newer guys now. It's just anybody that's not Ramy. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah, they did say new crop, the first from the new crop, but you know, what does new crop mean? I think it kind of means the guys coming up now, or the guys pushing in the top 10 or whatever. I don't know. Who do you think could win a Sandow out of this crew?
I don't want to take the obvious answer. I mean, I shouldn't say obvious because that's arrogant as fuck, but I mean, I feel like the easiest answer is Hunter. But I'm going to go Brett Wilkin.
I was thinking
blown
Brett.
away by him.
I was thinking about Brett.
I think that, I mean, if you factor in the changes that he's made in the last 2 years, and I know that he is as militant and disgusting as humanly possible on perfection.
Yes.
I have to assume that these changes we've seen for these 2 years, we're going to see for 2 more years. And I just don't see an end in sight. I mean, the guy turned pro in Classic and, you know, looked like a really good, never going anywhere Classic bodybuilder. And then took 2 years straight to hell. I think he did didn't he do a 212 show?
He did, yeah. He needed more.
Yeah.
But I mean, he went from Classic to 212.
He had more frame. And now you look at him, it's like, well, fuck, what is 2 more years going to be? So yeah. I would have a hard time betting against him. And what I also love is he doesn't have distractions. He's got a wife. They're locked in. They're committed to each other. They're committed to the process. There's no reason for him not to. He's literally done what I think winners do, which is he built his life. They built their life around their primary goal, which is this. So
he moved to Colorado so that he could train at Armbrust. You know, like that was a decision they made, was to be there. You know, yeah, he set himself up, didn't he?
Yeah, so that's, and if nothing else, then that should definitely lay out the respect I have for what they're doing, because that'd be my vote, and that's putting past a lot of really good guys who are currently above him, but I don't think they will be for long.
Yeah, the training is there. Like you see the sets on, you know what I mean? When he posts a set, you're like, okay, well, that's what it takes. You know,
well, but he's got the genetics and he's got this, and that's the big thing.
Yeah.
I think a lot of guys' genetics don't have the head. He does.
Yeah, some of the guys with the head don't have the genetics, so there you go.
And there's me that has neither. Anyways.
Yeah. I mean, obviously Hunter is, I see Hunter as the most complete head to toe, front to back guy in the new group. He's the most complete, from the calves to the structure to the, you know, the beauty of every single body part and how it's shaped and where it inserts. You know, the dad's genes went a long fucking way with that build.
And mom.
And
don't forget.
And mom, yeah, the dad and mom, yeah, we forget, right?
A freak of her own nature, don't forget.
yeah, you're right, Robin Labrada. So there's just a lot there, and like with his age and how much room he has, and I don't even mean room on his body, but room on the calendar, like room on the sands of time. I could see Hunter being Mr. Olympia, and And the Brett, that's a great pick because you're betting on the horse there. Like you're betting on what, you know what I mean? You've seen how, like, what's going on. And, you know, they say, you know, you're looking at the stable, you're not looking at the record. You went and saw the stable and what they're feeding them.
Yeah.
And you met the trainer and you're betting on the horse, not on like what they previously done. Right.
Yeah.
And that's interesting because a great pick. I mean, fuck, the way he looked this year already, like, really surprised me, you know? And I don't know. There's a lot of the new crop is good. It's very exciting, you know? And then you have guys like who do you consider new crop? Like, you know, we didn't mention Ijbb because, like, I don't really consider Ijbb a new guy. Like, Ijbb's like,
I don't either.
You know what I mean? So yeah, so people at home are probably like, why aren't they mentioning these guys? They're you know, top 7 or whatever. But, you know, that's kind of why. You know, it's funny. I'm not even sure if I consider Ian a new guy either.
Yeah,
I was counting him because he, for those who aren't as in deep in the game, he blew up recently. For those of us who've been around, Ian's been a star for years, 5 years, and it was just waiting. You know, is there anyone, Scott, you could think of that we didn't even mention that's like also right in that mix?
I was gonna
a bunch of guys that are good, like.
Yeah.
Like, were you gonna think of somebody? You think of somebody?
No, I wouldn't want to interrupt you here.
No. I was gonna say that. Yeah, I'd be very curious to ask our audience because I was thinking the same thing. Like, everybody is gonna be screaming somebody else that we didn't mention right now.
Royally.
And here's the thing, though: we get put on the spot and we start thinking, but then, or like we look at like the current shows. Like when we've done wrap ups, we were talking about, like, you know, who's looking good for the Olympia, and then all of a sudden the audience mentioned like 5, 6, 7 people, and all I could remember is thinking like, oh yeah, you know, there's all those people.
Well, think about Martin Fitzwalder that's training with Brett.
Yeah,
I mean, him and Brett next to each other would be a hell of a war, just the two of them.
Yeah, Martin's come up a lot too.
Freak as well, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, the list can go on and on. So definitely not pretending we don't know any or that there's no other names. But those are the ones that, to me, just because I feel like a lot of people like Ian, they see him now and they're like, oh my God, and I'm like, no, he's been oh my God for years.
Yeah.
Who do you think, if you could say there's any of the new guys who've, you know, done some damage and made their name, but who do you think has like the most potential that you want to see them fulfill that they haven't yet?
Ooh.
Well, I think Brett is, I got to bring him up. I know, Dusty, you just talked about him, but I still think he does have tremendous potential because he is so balanced and he has room. He will grow.
Yeah, he'll get better too, because that's, I mean, he's an obvious choice because, like you said, it's his. I think for some people, you look at him. For example, Nick Walker, freak. But I look at him and I'm like, where else can it go? Because there is a point where a lot of guys don't realize you can get bigger and get worse. You know, he's more of in the stage of like refine. You know, and it's not to say that he can't beat these guys or he wouldn't beat them now. But I do look at a guy like Brett and I'm looking going, he's done this much and there's still so much more there.
Right.
You know, so.
Right.
But I don't think there's anyone that's like, I know these guys will fulfill their potential versus some guys who are like, God, I just wish they would get it together. You know what I mean?
Right.
Where they've got a ton and you just never, you know, you're never going to see it.
Right. So see, one guy, you know, I was just on his Instagram the other day. He's just such an unbelievable bodybuilder, and I would like to see it all come together because it's come together a bunch of times, but, you know, come together when it really counts is Regan Grimes.
Oh yeah,
that physique. I mean, he's kind of the only other guy that I look at with the same way I look at Hunter, where everything is also beautiful. You know, like there's lots of physiques where you're like, oh, that's rugged and nasty and that's this and that. I'd say Hunter and Regan both have an amazing aesthetic to their physiques that is just unbelievable. And we've seen it, you know, we've seen Regan. I mean, he's qualified for the Olympia this year because of it, you know. You know, it would be really good to see the next level, you know, as he gets older, because he's still very young, you know, and I would love to see him show up this year, you know, the same way we expect Ian to look, the grainy, the crazy conditioning, you know, that sort of stuff. Like, I'm really hopeful that we're going to see another leap from his physique. That would be awesome.
I'm fascinated with the fact I see, it's funny, he puts up videos and posts of his physique and stuff, and I'm blown away because I saw literally multiple people comment like, "You're not ready for this level." I'm like, he's qualified for the Olympia 3 fucking times. He is this level. What are you talking about? Like, you act like it was a fluke and he got one show where no one showed up. It's like, are you out of your mind? Every show he does, he's a threat to win. You know, I think what Regan needs is time. And as the time clicks on, because a lot of people don't realize that he's like 11 years old or something. I mean, you know, but it is crazy how, because he's been good for so long from such a young age that people don't realize how young he really is. You know, time is going to click away. And as that muscle gets mature, it'll be nuts. You know, he's actually, there's one of the guys where if somebody said to you like, "Oh, who would you like to walk around looking like?" I'm like, well, that'd be fun. Like,
Wouldn't it?
He can buy a T-shirt off a rack, but also be enormous at the same time. That's impressive.
Yeah. And have women like how you look.
I've never.
It's like the little added,
like
right? The little added bonus that you're completely foreign to you. That's funny.
Yeah. What?
Who of all the guys doing the O? So, you know, think of who's qualified this year. Whose Instagram? Does any of their Instagram, like when you see them post like an update, any of them be like, "Fuck yeah, let's go"? Like, I don't know, who does anyone make you think like?
I got something for you guys here. Let me see if I can.
Yeah, okay.
Let me see if I can post
yes,
this up.
Pulling up live, cheater. Love it.
Oh,
Hottie.
I had nothing.
jeez.
And Scott wins this game. Okay, that was
Dude, I am so excited to see Hottie Chopin this year, and I feel like this could be his year. I don't know. I mean, Ron, I don't know. We'll see. But I really like him, and I really like his quality of muscle, and I feel like we've always all thought like if only Rami could pull it together, if only he could do it, and we finally saw like, holy shit, he finally did it. Now I want to see Hottie get his chance.
Right.
So, can you pull up an old photo of Dennis James from Thailand?
Oh
Put it
God,
next
yes.
to that shot, because they have the same.
He just
look.
posted one.
Did he?
Yeah, he just posted one like a week ago.
One of those
Being within his
Thailand
last
prep
12
photos
pictures.
from like 2001, 2002. One of those fucking with the belt on real tight, where he's like, and put it next to that picture of Hottie, and you see like their muscle quality looks the same. It's like just the most bizarre.
All right, give me just a second.
I don't know how to describe it, but to me it looks like the same. It looks like, are they on the same growth?
Oh yeah. Hold on a second here.
I don't know what it
that's
is.
the secret.
It's that look.
This is it's a similar shot too. He's got like the most muscular in the tank going on here. You're
Yeah,
right.
That shot reminded me of fucking Dennis.
That's a
James,
very similar quality.
Yeah.
you know. Put the Hottie shot up.
Yeah, give me a sec. I'm working. I'm sitting at my parents' house, sitting in my dad's chair, holding my microphone with one hand on my laptop,
That's so
scrolling
funny.
with the other. Yes, my dad made
It's
us.
such an awesome shot. It's funny because you pulled up the exact fucking picture I was thinking of. Like, there's a bunch of those where he's doing that with the string tank. But
So
that
you know
picture
that
next to Hottie,
my friend Dave that owned iForce Nutrition, he does the border states, and I can't remember what year it was, but he goes, "Yeah, I'm backstage. I'm pretty confident." And some fucking guy shows up from Germany, Dennis James, and annihilates everybody. Just came in, absolutely annihilates everyone, and then he was planning on going home. And John Lindsay's like, whoa. There's Nationals or USA's or whatever show was up next. Like, you got to do that. God, that is wacky.
that's awesome, eh?
It is. And the only thing that's crazy that this is why pictures, and I hate when people like want to truly compare pictures, because Dennis James is a bigger frame than Hadi by a mile.
Huh? Yeah.
But
Yeah,
in this
yeah.
picture, you
Dennis
can't
James
tell.
is like, yeah, yeah. He's a bigger guy, way bigger guy. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, because in this picture you would say, oh man, Hadi's bigger than he is, but the quality, you're right, it's like identical. I mean, it's nuts. But also pay attention. How do both of those guys train? Heavy, basic,
Yeah.
brutal workouts. You know, remember the video with the guy screaming at him with every lunge, like literally walking backwards and screaming in his face.
Yeah, and those videos of Dennis training in Thailand with that fucking hot gym he was in. You know, I remember him front squatting 5 plates like to failure, and then grabbing a fucking 100-pound dumbbell and doing like heel raise front squats, and then lunging outside in the 50-degree Thailand heat. Yeah, crazy. I get excited when I look at like a new picture of Hollingshead. Where
that's
really
what we didn't mention.
In. James, I'm really hopeful for him. I want him to just look absolutely fucking nuts. I want him to bring that sort of British steel Dorian look. You know, if he walks out on stage with that look that I know he can have, I'll be so happy. And I know he's going to, because, you know,
I was gonna say when it's James.
Yeah, when
it's not an if factor with a guy like that.
Yeah.
I'm glad you
It's
remembered
just,
him, because we were going to get a lot of comments that we didn't. Thank you.
No, I'm excited to see his Instagram all the time. I want him to place as high as fucking possible. You know, like,
isn't it funny though how that works? Where James, Regan, guys who qualified a long time ago, and it's not that they're not active on social media, but they're not competing. They kind of stop getting mentioned leading into the show, and it's like, what do you think?
Yeah, you got that year-old qualification.
He's grinding every day with only one date in mind, you know?
Yeah.
So, it'll definitely be exciting to see. I really love James's story, because I feel like whether maybe it was just timing, but at the time, it was almost like he was the second best to Luke, and then that was the way it was going to be. And then when Luke passed away, James gave himself permission to become one of the best in the world. You know what I mean? I really felt like that.
Yeah. I know there's like movies about that sort of thing. You know what I mean? Like, you know, it's kind of like, you know, they write stories about that. It's not a new sort of tale. And, you know, I mean, hey, you know, everyone knows Johnny Jackson.
Yep.
I mean, Johnny Jackson's older brother was, according to Johnny, the better bodybuilder. And his older brother died in a car accident. He was a trucker.
I never knew that.
Yeah, and his older brother died. I believe he was a trucker. And his older brother passed away. And like they both competed together, you know, and Johnny said was like the one that wanted to be a bodybuilder, and Johnny just did it because, you know, he wanted to be like his brother. And anyways, his brother passed away, and that like motivated Johnny to like really go for it, you know?
Right.
And so, yeah, it's like, you know, there's lots of stories like that. There's, you know, where one person, you know, Obi-Wan Kenobi gives his life force to Luke, you know, like that sort of thing. And, you know, becomes his kind of guide. So Luke can go be great. You know, that's like part of Star Wars, you know, lore. So it's interesting to see Hollingshead rise to the next level, you know, after such a tragedy. And it just, you know, fucking awesome. It's cool.
Oh, yeah.
You know, bodybuilding history. So I'm excited to see that.
Every shot you're putting up, Scott, is nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, his shape is so cool.
Yeah. I know. Plus, he's pasty white like me. He's got the fucking British tan. You know? Here's a question to see if either of you two know it. What is best in life?
Best in life?
What is best in life?
Like the best part?
I was wondering if you guys would get it.
I don't even know what that means.
It's a movie quote.
Of course you know that.
That's the Conan quote. What is best in life is to
Oh.
crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentation of their women. I assume that's what he means.
I'm sure
reading
it
the
is.
question here. All it says is what is best in life, and I was like, oh fuck. So okay.
Yeah, Scott and I would have been like this,
Yeah.
looking for some deep answer.
We would have been like, well, happiness and love and
I'd have been like
really
eating steak
really
without
loving
choking to
yourself
death.
is
I don't
important.
know.
to crush your enemies.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, it goes on with Dusty being upset at Arnold, so I thought maybe he would remember that one.
There we go. It's all line. It's all line and line right there.
How long have we been going for? I haven't even looked at the clock.
We're on over 2 hours, man. We're champions today.
Okay. I should probably get going. I do have other things I have to do with my life.
You gotta let the dog out and eat.
Yeah, I gotta let the dog out and eat. Exactly. Exactly. Okay, fellas. Thanks for another good show. We do have some guests planned. We've talked about it, so we should get on that and cement some of that stuff because I'd like to do that again soon. Let's hear from you guys. Who do you want to see on the show? Let's do that.
Yes.
Let's ask all the people that make it to this point of the episode are actually the lifers that watch the full thing. So those are the people we really want to hear from. I think that's a good.
That's a good point.
Way.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, the first 5-minute people, we don't care who they want to see.
You know what else?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. If you're still watching and you have any questions for the guys, of course, the guys always take questions on Instagram. Post them up in the YouTube. I will make sure to get them to them. That's just for you guys. The special last 5-minuters, you know?
Okay.
Exactly. They made it through all this boringness.
Sounds good. Remember, subscribe, share, comment, like.
Dusty? Thank you.
Ring the bell.
Ring the bell. Okay.
Ring the bell.
Thanks, fellas.
First.
Remember,
Hi, guys.
it's just bodybuilding. So
Cool.
we gotta, so we gotta edit this before the ending here.
All right, we're good. We're
Which I'm
rolling.
sure we can do. We're rolling.
Yes.
How's our Wi-Fi? Everyone looks a little blurry this time.
You know what?
Me too.
Everything looks. I look not great, but that's normal. My camera's not great. You guys look. The recording's good. We're solid.
Okay.
Okay. So I sent you a link, and I want you to play the link.
Okay.
You got to share it to screen. So Scott hasn't seen this. Dusty hasn't seen this. I haven't seen this.
All right.
I haven't even seen this yet. So
Okay.
I got a link, but I want you to just play this video.
Let's see. I don't know if the sound. Can you guys hear this?
Man.
Yep.
Okay.
Happy birthday from your second favorite. Obviously, Victoria is numero uno, but from your second favorite thirst trap. Enjoy.
Apparently, I'm supposed to say something nice because it's your birthday. Happy birthday. Hope you have a good one, mate. Really don't know what else to say. I speak to you every fucking week, and you do me head in then. But anyway, have a good one.
Can we cut this part out with
Fuck
Dave?
you, Scott.
Hey Scott, I heard that someone's turning a year older, and I just want to wish you happy birthday first, and also say thank you for your friendship, and thank you for the opportunities you've given me. I think one of the best things about the sport of bodybuilding that we're all in is that we get to meet great people, and I absolutely put you as one of those people. So I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you on the podcast soon, buddy. Bye.
Look how lean Andrew looks.
Scott,
Oh my gosh.
man, happy birthday. I hope you have an excellent day, and I hope the rest of 2021 is a segue into a better 2022. I know you had a rough year, but you've made the most of it. You've put out a lot of awesome content. I've enjoyed all the podcasts that we've done, and I look forward to everything we'll do moving forward. I appreciate you as a friend and as a brother in bodybuilding. You've given me a lot of advice over the years, so very grateful for that, and I'm grateful for you. Have a great birthday, man.
Oh man. Thank you guys.
Look at that.
There you
That's
go.
cool.
And then, of course, me and Dusty aren't actually on the video, but, happy birthday, my friend. And, you've helped us a lot with all 103 episodes of this show. And, you know, done all the fingertip magic and the brain work. So we definitely appreciate it. And
Hey,
you had a hell of a year, but you're still here. So
I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful to have you guys. You guys make this worthwhile. So thank you guys. I appreciate you.
there you go. I knew we had to play that video on the air. Victoria was going to kill me. She went through the trouble of sending it to me.
She
She's
put
like,
that
"Make sure
together.
this gets played."
She put that together. Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Yeah. So she put that together, and then she sent it to me, and she's like, "I'm trying to think. Can you just get him to play it? Just don't make sure he doesn't watch it. Just get him to play it." And I was like, "Okay."
I love it because I
So
really
happy
didn't watch it.
birthday,
I had no
buddy.
idea what it was.
Yeah. No, I didn't watch it before I sent it to you. So
Well,
awesome,
that's very
man. Happy
sweet.
birthday.
Thanks.
Yeah,
I'll see.
yeah.
No doubt.
I appreciate it, and
Awesome.
I look forward to seeing what we can do for 2022.
There you go.
Absolutely, man.